The smartest person in the room isn't the loudest. It's the one who lets others reveal themselves first. Watch this to learn how to stay 5 moves ahead while they think you're standing still. Power has never belonged to the one who shouts the loudest. It has always belonged to the one who moves the quietest. The real advantage does not come from being seen everywhere or talking endlessly about what you intend to do. It comes from making your moves in silence while others are too busy announcing theirs. The invisible advantage is the ability to think several steps ahead without letting anyone see the board you are playing on. When you have this ability, you are never at the mercy of noise, because the moment people think they know what you're doing, you have already moved to a place they cannot see. Most people believe visibility is power. They think by talking about their dreams, their goals, their strategies, they are gaining respect, but in truth they are giving away their map. The moment you tell someone your next move, you hand them the keys to interfere, to copy you, to block you. Predictability is the greatest weakness because it allows others to prepare for you. The predictable man is not respected. He is managed. He is easy to push aside because his steps are visible before he even takes them. The unreadable man, however, is feared. He does not reveal his direction. He does not explain his intent. He does not give away the why behind his actions. People look at him and wonder, what is he planning? What does he know that we don't? Where is his confidence coming from? That wondering becomes its own form of power, because when people cannot predict you, they cannot stop you. Every silent move you make becomes heavier. Every delay becomes mysterious. Every action becomes amplified because it is happening outside of their expectations. The invisible advantage is not about being secretive for the sake of secrecy. It is about positioning yourself in a way that makes others cautious around you. When you are too visible, people stop respecting you. They know where you are headed, they know what you want, and they treat you like an open book. When you are less visible, when you say less, when you reveal only what you choose, suddenly they lean in, they hesitate, they wait for you to act. You hold the frame without trying, because your silence forces their imagination to do the work. Think of the most powerful players in history. They rarely announced their every thought. They moved quietly. They let others underestimate them, and then they struck with precision. The world remembers their results, not their explanations. Power is never about being understood. It is about being impossible to pin down. If they can predict you, they can control you. If they cannot predict you, they must respect you. The invisible advantage is the discipline of keeping your plan close, your thoughts guarded, and your moves silent until they can no longer be stopped. Those who master this don't just win, they dominate. Because while others play out loud, they play in shadows, and shadows are where true power lives. Most people ruin their own power long before anyone else gets the chance. They do it with their words, with their eagerness to be understood, with the constant need to share what they are doing and why they are doing it. They call it honesty, they call it openness, but in the world of power, it is nothing more than handing over your weapons before the battle even begins. Transparency feels noble because it makes you seem like you have nothing to hide, but in truth, it exposes your every weakness. When others know your intentions, they can calculate you, they can predict you, and the predictable person is the easiest to control. The trap of transparency is built on ego and insecurity. People announce their goals because they want validation. They tell everyone what they plan to do because they need approval before they even begin. It sounds harmless, but what they are really doing is giving others the chance to prepare against them. The moment you tell someone your next move, you give them time to set traps, to copy your plan, or to block you altogether. And when your success depends on the approval of others, you are no longer free, you are chained to their perception. In business, in relationships, in competition, the loudest one in the room rarely wins. The one who constantly explains his vision, his next project, his strategy, thinks he is showing confidence, but what he is really showing is desperation to be believed. True confidence doesn't announce itself. It moves in silence until the result is undeniable. The man who must always explain himself, who must always show his hand, reveals that he is still looking for permission to act, and permission is the opposite of power. Transparency is also dangerous because it locks you into a position before you are ready. Once you declare a plan, people will hold you to it, Even if you change your mind, even if the situation shifts, you lose flexibility because you made yourself accountable to an audience you didn't need. The truly strategic person understands that freedom comes from silence. When no one knows your next move, you are free to change direction without resistance. But once you explain, once you declare, you are trapped in your own words. The illusion of transparency is that people will respect you more for it. In reality, they use it against you. Competitors listen closely, not to admire, but to adapt. Friends sometimes gossip, repeating your ideas before you are ready. Even those who mean well will unknowingly weaken your position, because the more your plans are out in the open, the more predictable you become. And predictable people are easy to manage, easy to manipulate, and easy to replace. The invisible advantage comes from holding back. Not lying, not deceiving, simply refusing to reveal what does not need to be revealed. In power dynamics, the less they know, the more they fear, the more they respect, the more they hesitate. Transparency is a trap because it trades power for comfort. Silence feels risky in the moment, but it is silence that keeps you free. Silence is often mistaken for weakness because most people fear empty space. They feel the need to fill every pause with words, explanations, or justifications, thinking that if they do not speak, they will lose control of the moment. The truth is the opposite. Silence, when held with confidence, is one of the strongest weapons you can ever carry. It is not absence, it is presence sharpened into something that unsettles those who expect you to react. When you refuse to give people the reaction they are waiting for, you take away their sense of control and leave them stranded in uncertainty. Uncertainty is what breaks people. When someone cannot read you, when they cannot figure out your thoughts or predict your next move, they begin to spin in their own minds. They replay their words. They wonder if they went too far. They question if they embarrassed themselves. Instead of focusing on you, they turn inward, and that self-doubt weakens them. Every time they try to predict you and fail, their confidence erodes piece by piece, while yours grows stronger without you lifting a finger. Think about any argument. The person who speaks first usually loses ground, because once they start explaining, once they start defending, they reveal their emotional state. But the one who holds silence makes the other side nervous. They keep talking, they over-explain, they push harder, and with every word they reveal their insecurity. Silence acts like a mirror, showing the other person more about themselves than they wanted to see. And while they scramble, you remain calm, untouchable, and in control. Silence also shifts the balance in groups. Imagine being in a room where someone throws an insult or a challenge. Most people rush to respond, eager to clear their name or to defend their position. But if you stay still, if you let the words hang in the air without reaction, everyone else begins to wonder. They look at you, they look at the accuser, and they start asking themselves who really holds the power here. More often than not, they decide the silent one must know something the loud one doesn't. Silence turns the tables without effort, because people are not only listening to words, they are watching reactions. Another strength of silence is that it keeps your options open. Words lock you into a position. They force you to take a side. They reveal your thinking too early. But silence gives you space. You can observe longer. You can collect information. You can decide your move when the timing is right. The person who waits before speaking often speaks with more impact because their words carry weight. People lean in when the quiet one finally decides to speak, and in that moment, silence transforms into power. Silence is not weakness, it is strategy. It creates mystery, it generates respect, and it unsettles those who depend on predictability. The less you say, the more people imagine, and imagination is often more powerful than truth. When others cannot read you, they cannot control you. And that is why silence is not emptiness. It is dominance disguised as restraint. Power is not only about silence, it is also about direction. When people think they know your intentions, they relax. They believe they have figured you out, and in that comfort they stop being cautious. This is where misdirection comes in. Instead of explaining yourself, instead of making your path clear, you allow them to believe a story that is only half true. You let them chase shadows while you move freely in another direction. Misdirection is not lying, it is guiding attention. You do not fight their assumptions, you feed them just enough to keep them occupied. while your real work happens where no one is looking. Most people think being clear makes them respected, but in power games, clarity is a trap. The clearer you are, the easier you are to block. The moment someone understands exactly what you want, they can put barriers in your way. But if you allow them to think they know while you quietly shift your true aim, you remain untouchable. They spend energy preparing for a move you never intended to make, and by the time they realize their mistake, you have already won. This is how you control the tempo without showing your hand. Misdirection works because people are desperate for certainty. They would rather believe a false signal than sit in uncertainty. If you give them hints, gestures, or small statements, they will build an entire picture around it, convinced they know what you are up to. You never have to confirm or deny. Their own assumptions become the prison that blinds them. And the best part is that when they are wrong, they blame themselves for misreading you, never realizing you gave them exactly what you wanted them to see. Think about competition. In sports, in business, in relationships, the most dangerous players are the ones who never show their true angle. They make one move to the left while preparing for a strike from the right. They distract with noise in one place, while their real progress is happening in silence elsewhere. People call it unpredictability, but it is really control disguised as confusion. The opponent is not confused by accident. They are confused by design. Explanation weakens you because it invites challenge. Every time you explain, someone will poke holes, someone will question, someone will resist. But when you misdirect, no one has anything to resist. They argue with shadows, not with you. They prepare for threats that do not exist. And in doing so, they expose their own blind spots. Your calm presence, your refusal to clarify, your subtle hints, all combine into an aura that makes people second, guess every thought they have about you. That doubt is the soil where your power grows. Misdirection is not deception for the sake of trickery, it is protection. It keeps your real intentions safe while others waste energy trying to read you. And the longer they chase false signals, the more freedom you gain to act without interference. When you master this, you do not need to fight directly, you let others fight ghosts while you advance untouched. That is the art of misdirection over explanation, and it is one of the quietest, yet strongest, weapons of strategy. Patience has always been one of the rarest strengths, yet it is the one that quietly decides who rises and who collapses. Most people cannot stand to wait. They rush to explain themselves, rush to prove themselves, rush to show what they are capable of, believing that speed will win them respect. In truth, rushing only makes them predictable. The moment you show your hand too early, you become easy prey. Everyone knows where you stand, everyone knows what to expect, and that knowledge strips away your advantage. Delay, on the other hand, is not weakness, it is pressure disguised as calm. The power of delay works because human beings hate uncertainty. When you wait, when you do not reveal what you are thinking, or when you will act, you build a kind of tension that unsettles people. They start to imagine what you might be planning. They replay their own moves in fear, and often they act before they should just to release that pressure. They expose themselves, they overcommit. They waste their energy trying to prepare for strikes that have not yet come. And all the while you are still patient, calculating, watching them exhaust themselves against shadows. Delay is not about doing nothing. It is about controlling tempo. Every strong player knows that timing is more important than force. A small move at the right moment is worth more than 100 rushed actions that came too soon. By waiting, you allow the situation to unfold in front of you. You see who grows nervous, who makes mistakes, who shows their cards too early. Every second of delay is a second of information you collect, and that information becomes the advantage no one can take away from you. In business, the one who waits before speaking often wins the room. Others rush to share their ideas, eager to impress, but the one who listens, who lets the noise pass, has the power to enter only when the moment is perfect. Their words carry more weight because silence came before them. In conflict, the same rule applies. The person who responds too quickly often responds emotionally, but the one who delays creates doubt. That doubt weakens the attack, and by the time they finally choose to respond, they are no longer defending, they are defining. Delay also protects you from traps. Many challenges, insults, and tests are designed to make you react instantly. The one who reacts without thinking falls into the frame set by others, but the one who delays refuses that frame. They step back, they let the provocation hang, and in that gap, the trap collapses under its own weight. The aggressor looks unstable, desperate for reaction, while you look composed, untouchable, above the game. The power of delay is the power of patience, sharpened into strategy. It is the refusal to move on someone else's schedule, the discipline to wait until the moment is yours. And when that moment comes, your move does not just land, it shocks, because no one saw it coming. That is the difference between the rushed and the patient. One is predictable, the other is unforgettable. Power often belongs not to the one who speaks the most, but to the one who shapes the space around the words. Controlling the frame without owning it is one of the most subtle but effective strategies in human interaction. The frame is the invisible set of rules that guide how people see the conversation or situation. Most people step inside the frame that has already been created for them. They defend, they explain, they react, never realizing they are playing by someone else's rules. The true strategist never accepts the frame handed to him, but he also never reveals his own directly. Instead, he guides the direction quietly, bending the frame until everyone else is playing by his rhythm without even noticing. The first tool of this strategy is the question. Questions are powerful because they shift focus. Instead of explaining yourself, you make others explain themselves. They think they are leading, but in reality, they are showing their hand. A simple question asked with calm presence forces people to reveal what they wanted to hide, or to expose how shallow their argument truly is. The one who asks the question holds the invisible authority, because suddenly the room is listening to the answer, not to the attack. By never stating your full position, you remain unexposed, while they give away piece after piece of their thinking. Silence is the second tool. People are deeply uncomfortable with pauses, so they rush to fill them. When you hold silence after someone has spoken, they often keep talking, clarifying, justifying, and in the process, weakening their own stance. The more they speak, the more they reveal, while you reveal nothing. It looks like passivity, but in reality, it is control. You have turned their own discomfort into your weapon. Every pause is a mirror that forces them to confront their own uncertainty. Assumptions are the third layer of this control. When you do not explain yourself, people will fill in the blanks with their own guesses. And human nature being what it is, those guesses often overestimate your strength. They assume you are more confident than you are, more informed than you are, more dangerous than you are. You do not need to prove anything. You only need to let their imagination build your image for you. The less you give, the more powerful the image becomes. The beauty of controlling the frame without owning it is that it makes you untouchable. If you state your intent too clearly, you give people something to attack. If you hold it back, if you use questions, pauses, and subtle redirections, they never get the chance. They fight against the air, they argue against shadows, and in the process, they look unstable while you look calm. Power does not always come from direct force. Often it comes from invisible influence, the kind that moves the room without needing to be seen. The one who masters this never has to fight for control, because he has already defined the space in which the fight happens. The most dangerous players are not the ones who make grand moves that everyone can see. They are the ones who make small moves that look casual, almost unplanned, but are precise and intentional beneath the surface. This is the art of subtlety, the mastery of small moves. When you act in ways that do not draw attention, you protect yourself from scrutiny. People dismiss what you are doing, they underestimate it, and by the time they realize those small steps have built into something larger, it is too late to stop you. The quiet builder always wins over the loud dreamer, because noise attracts resistance, while silence creates room to move freely. Small moves work because they do not trigger alarms. When someone makes a bold announcement or a dramatic step, it invites challenge. Competitors rally against it, skeptics tear it apart, enemies sharpen their knives. But when you move quietly, when your steps look harmless, no one pays enough attention to interfere. You grow in the shadows while they fight over the spotlight, and when the light finally turns your way, you have already built something strong enough to stand on its own. What looked like luck or sudden success was really the result of many small invisible actions strung together with discipline. The appearance of casualness is part of the strategy. You act as if things just happened, as if decisions were made in passing, as if the opportunities fell into place by chance. People are less threatened by what looks unplanned. They let their guard down. They dismiss you, and in doing so, they give you space to move even further. But in truth, every small step you take is measured. Every move is placed with precision. You hide your intent in plain sight, and that is why it is so effective. Consider the way great strategists in history operated. They rarely moved with dramatic flair. Instead, they chipped away at the edges, making progress so quietly that no one realized how much ground had been lost until the final blow was already delivered. By the time their enemies recognized the pattern, the trap was already closed. This principle applies to life as much as it does to war or politics. If you want to win in relationships, in business, in influence, the secret is not in explosive declarations, but in the quiet stacking of small advantages. The mastery of small moves also protects you from being predictable. Big gestures reveal too much. People can map them, prepare for them, and block them. Small moves are harder to read. They look ordinary, forgettable, even clumsy at times, but they build momentum in ways no one else notices. It is like laying bricks one at a time. No one pays attention to the first few, but by the time the wall is high enough, it commands attention on its own. This is why restraint is power. To act boldly all the time is to burn yourself out and invite enemies. To act subtly, consistently, and with hidden precision is to grow without interference. The one who masters small moves becomes unstoppable, not because anyone feared him in the beginning, but because no one saw him coming until it was far too late. The strongest moves in life are not the ones made every day, they are the ones saved for the right moment. Power is not about constant action, it is about timing. The one who reveals too soon weakens himself because the element of surprise is gone. But the one who waits, the one who holds his plan until the precise moment of unveiling, delivers a strike that no one can prepare for. This is the art of patience turned into impact. The shock does not come from the size of the move, but from the fact that no one saw it coming. When you hide your plan until execution, you keep everyone else blind. They underestimate you. They assume you are inactive. They believe you have no strategy at all. They become comfortable, and comfort breeds carelessness. Then, when the unveiling happens, their guard is down, and the blow lands with twice the force it would have if they had been expecting it. The power of the moment lies in the contrast between their illusion and your reality. What looked like nothing suddenly becomes everything. The reason this works is because anticipation is half of defense. If people know what is coming, they can adapt, they can resist, they can fight back. But if they do not know, they freeze. Even strong opponents crumble when caught off guard. The unveiling paralyzes them, because they are not only dealing with your move, they are dealing with the shock of realizing they misjudged you. Their minds replay all the times they thought they had you figured out, and that doubt weakens them further. You have not only struck their position, you have struck their confidence. The key is not to act often, but to act precisely. If you keep revealing parts of your plan, if you scatter your energy across constant gestures, the unveiling loses its power. The greatest impact comes from restraint, from holding back until the stage is set. Like a predator waiting in silence, you study, you watch, you prepare, and when you finally reveal, it feels final. It feels unstoppable because the build-up of patience has condensed into one decisive move. The moment of unveiling also carries authority because it ends debates. While others argue, while they speculate, while they waste energy trying to guess your intentions, you hold steady. When the time comes and you reveal with action rather than explanation, the room goes silent. No words can compete with a result that has already landed. You did not try to convince, you did not try to argue, you simply executed. That clarity commands respect, because people cannot fight with what is already real. This is why the strongest blow is not delivered often. Frequency weakens mystery. Silence and patience strengthen it. The unveiling should feel inevitable yet unexpected, the kind of moment that makes people realize they were never in control to begin with. That shock, that sudden shift in power, gives you maximum control. You did not just move, you defined the game with one strike. That is the true power of the moment of unveiling. The final stage of power is not about winning arguments or proving yourself right. It is about reaching a point where you no longer need to. Those who master the art of hidden strategy move beyond ordinary competition because they stop playing the same game as everyone else. Most people live openly, exposing their thoughts, their goals, their reactions, believing that honesty and clarity will protect them. But the one who learns to move in silence, who withholds his intent, who lets others doubt themselves instead of explaining himself, becomes something far more powerful. He becomes unreadable, and the unreadable man is untouchable. To be untouchable does not mean being distant or cold, it means being impossible to pin down. Predictability is what makes people vulnerable. If others can read your emotions, if they can predict your next move, if they know exactly what you want, then you are easy to control. But when your silence creates uncertainty, when your calmness hides your intent, when your presence suggests more than you ever say, people hesitate. They become cautious around you. They second-guess their attacks. And in that hesitation, you gain complete control. You no longer fight for position. You define it simply by existing within it. The untouchable aura comes from more than secrecy. Secrecy alone makes people suspicious. Aura is different. It is the atmosphere you create by showing restraint, by acting with timing, by speaking rarely, but with precision. Aura makes others believe you know more than you do, that you see further than they can, that you are operating on a level above their reach. It is not about hiding information. It is about letting your silence and stillness create an image larger than explanation ever could. When people cannot figure you out, they fill the gaps with their imagination, and imagination always paints you stronger than you really are. This is how figures of myth are created, not because they shouted the loudest, not because they defended themselves every time they were attacked, but because they were seen as unknowable. The less you reveal, the more stories others create about you. The less you react, the more powerful you appear. In time, your name carries weight not because of what you said, but because of the mystery around what you chose not to say. The aura becomes its own kind of armor, protecting you without you having to lift a finger. Ordinary competition disappears when you reach this level. While others scramble for approval, while they explain and argue and reveal too much, you remain calm, distant from the noise. You are not in the crowd, you are above it. And when people realize they cannot provoke you, cannot read you, cannot pull you into their frame, they stop trying. They begin to respect you, sometimes even fear you because your aura makes them believe you are beyond reach. To outthink everyone without letting them see your plan is not just strategy, it is transformation. You no longer rely on constant action or constant defense. You rely on presence. Presence that is unreadable, untouchable, and unforgettable. This is where power becomes effortless, not because you proved yourself, but because you no longer need to. You have crossed from being ordinary into being a myth, and myths cannot be touched. Maybe this video helped you see yourself or someone you know in a different way. Feel free to let us know via a like or in the comments. And if you want more wisdom and guidance in becoming a better version of yourself, subscribe now. This is the moment to start becoming the person you really want to be.